Right after crossing the finish line at the Spanish Grand Prix, Lewis Hamilton said something on the radio that left the entire Ferrari team shaken. "Something's wrong with this car, man. It's the worst I've ever driven." These words were direct, raw, and completely unfiltered. There were no excuses, no polite tone, just pure frustration. That moment didn't just signal the end of a race. It marked a breaking point in Hamilton's journey with Ferrari. This wasn't just about a bad Sunday. This was the result of weeks of pressure building up. The car that was supposed to be a major step forward has become a constant headache. Decisions from the team have started to be questioned behind closed doors. Even the relationship between Hamilton and his race engineer, Riccardo Adami, seems to be falling apart. What we saw in Barcelona was the visible result of a long process of emotional and technical breakdown. It's not just about lap times anymore. It's about trust, or the lack of it. The weekend in Barcelona started with hope. The Ferrari looked competitive, the weather was perfect. Hamilton seemed motivated and confident. On Saturday, he qualified fifth, ahead of Charles Leclerc. And just behind the two McLarens, he made a good start, past George Russell, and for a few moments things looked promising. It seemed like Hamilton's season could finally take a positive turn. But by Sunday, everything fell apart. From the first lap, Hamilton knew something wasn't right. The balance of the car had disappeared. The rear end was unstable. The car didn't respond the way it did during qualifying. Every corner became a struggle. Every acceleration had to be done with extreme care. The car that gave him hope on Saturday turned into a nightmare on race day. Then came a key moment. Leclerc was faster and the team gave a direct order: swap positions. Hamilton didn't argue, he didn't complain, he didn't even make a sarcastic comment. He just followed the instruction, and that silence said everything. Hamilton is known for speaking up when things don't go right. This time, he said nothing. That wasn't team spirit. It was a sign that something is broken. The trust between driver and team, especially between Hamilton and Adami, appears to have vanished. The situation got worse when Hamilton began having gearbox issues. He reported it over the radio, clearly expecting a quick solution. Instead, the team's response was confusing. Adami asked him to test downshifting again, to which Hamilton responded, nearly annoyed, that he had already said it was working. When he was told to box, Hamilton refused and replied calmly, "I can keep going, man, it's fine." This wasn't a conversation, it was a warning. Hamilton didn't believe the instructions from the pit wall would help him anymore. He didn't argue or debate, he just did what he felt was right. That shows something deeper than a communication problem. It shows a broken relationship. Since joining Ferrari, Hamilton hasn't been able to create the same bond with Adami that he had with Pete Bonington at Mercedes. There, just half a sentence, on the radio was enough for both to understand each other. With Ferrari, everything feels cold and forced. The messages are robotic and disconnected from what's happening on the track, and that lack of connection affects performance. A top driver like Hamilton needs to know his engineer understands the car as much as he does. That trust is a key part of his driving style. Without it, his performance drops. And that's exactly what we saw in Spain. The cracks in the relationship between Hamilton and Adami have been there for a while. This didn't begin in Barcelona. Take Miami, for example. The team took too long to instruct Leclerc to swap positions. Hamilton made a sarcastic comment on the radio. "Might as well have some tea while we wait." It made people laugh, but it was clearly frustration hiding behind a joke. Then came Monaco. Hamilton finished fifth and crossed the line asking over the radio, "Are you mad at me or something?" And he got no reply. Ferrari blamed a radio issue. Hamilton defended Adami in public. But anyone watching could see that wasn't just a technical glitch. That was emotional disconnect. When a driver asks his engineer if he's angry, it's not just about strategy. It's about trust, feeling valued, being on the same page. And those emotional fractures don't heal overnight. Without that bond, even the smallest decisions turn into problems. The Ferrari garage doesn't have that mutual trust right now. What happened in Spain simply exposed what has been happening for months. There was no major crash, no massive mistake, no penalty, just a weekend that started with promise and ended with a completely disengaged Hamilton. and that's a serious concern. Hamilton has always been a driver led by emotion, passion, and instinct. To see him so detached is not just rare, it's alarming. The most revealing part of the weekend came after the race. Hamilton crossed the line in 7th, but was promoted to 6th after Verstappen's penalty. Still, in interviews, it was obvious that result meant nothing to him. When asked if there was anything positive about the race, Hamilton replied coldly, "Worst race I've had in terms of balance. I have no idea why it was so bad. Nothing." He didn't mention the team. He didn't talk about the next race in Canada. When asked what was next, he just said, "Home." That one word spoke volumes. It wasn't just exhaustion. It was emotional detachment. Hamilton looked like a driver who no longer believed in the project. This goes beyond a bad race. It's about feeling disconnected, without purpose, without direction. Ferrari continues to show optimism. They talk about updates for Canada. They say they're working to improve the rear end of the SF25. They admit the car's weaknesses. But here's the real question. What's the point of updating the car if the driver no longer has faith in the people running it? You can change aerodynamics, tweak components, adjust engine maps, but that won't fix a broken team environment. Hamilton didn't come to Ferrari to survive in 6th place. He came to make history. He came for glory. But what he has found so far is more like a failed experiment than a team ready to fight for championships. And the most worrying part? He's not even angry anymore. He's accepting things in silence. When a driver like Hamilton stops fighting, it means something very serious is happening. The big question now is, will Ferrari wake up in time, or will we keep watching the slow, quiet collapse of one of the most exciting partnerships in recent F1 history? This is no longer about points or performance alone. It's about keeping a driver mentally engaged. Hamilton arrived at Ferrari full of hope. He believed in the dream, but today that fire looks like it's fading. And if Ferrari doesn't act fast, not just with upgrades but with deep internal change, they might lose him before they even get a real chance to compete for wins. The story of Lewis Hamilton at Ferrari could still be a great one. But for that to happen, the team needs more than parts and promises. They need to fix the human side. They need to rebuild trust. They need to listen, because right now, the most experienced, talented driver on the grid is sounding the alarm. And the worst thing Ferrari can do is ignore it. In Formula One, success doesn't come just from speed. It comes from unity, from communication, from belief. Right now, Ferrari has the tools, but not the connection. And if they don't fix it soon, the dream of Hamilton in red might turn into a short, painful chapter, one that ends not with a bang, but with a silent goodbye.